so many people have backed him up, that is what's in my
We'll go ahead and get started in about 5 minutes. Give everybody just a few more minutes to log on and update their clients, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Go ahead and give everybody just a couple more minutes to get in and update it, and then we'll go ahead and get started about 7:02 our time, Pacific time. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and we'll go ahead and get started. Tonight, we're talking about how to talk on a two-way radio. This is part of our ongoing third Wednesday of the month, continuing Community Emergency Response Team Continuing Education series. These monthly trainings go over various topics ranging from basic or topics covered in the Community Emergency Response Team training to intermediate topics such as this one, how to talk on a two-way radio, to more advanced topics such as organizing and coordinating with a local team. One thing that the basic community emergency response team training doesn't actually cover is two-way radios. And the intent is not to exclude them, but rather to allow people to, instructors and programs to add their own material on top of that. And many of them do. Certainly, we do see radio being used in drills, even if they're not talked about in the main class, but a lot of programs do add them. And so the question is, why two-way radio? At a basic level, if technology doesn't work, power's out, all your batteries are dead, an EMP strikes and fries all your electronics. Um, at the most basic level, to share information, you need to run or walk or horse and buggy carriage from one point to another. It could be over the distance of a block, could be multiple blocks, could be halfway along across the city. And you're really limited both in terms of how far, how fast you can walk, but also distance and time. If it takes someone 20 minutes to walk a mile and you're 5 miles away from the other place that you need to talk to, you can see how long it's going to take to cover that amount of distance. Versus with two-way radios, you can simply push a button and talk to someone down the block, across the street, on the other side of the country. And it really does become a force multiplier. Instead of requiring one person to take information from between two different people and the back and forth, you can, quite frankly, you can sit at home and use your radio to talk to other people or to listen to what's going on out there. And so part of what we really advocate for is using radios for sharing situational awareness, being able to identify trends as people report in during a disaster if things are getting worse or if there's no problems at all, everybody's okay, and no one's lost power, there's no damage to buildings, no injuries. That kind of situational awareness lets you know that things are not actually bad enough that you need to deploy and mobilize a response. Um, Oftentimes, however, you'll have someone who might be trapped inside their home. And if you have a two-way radio, you can call someone a good distance away that might not be able to hear you scream or even blow a whistle. And the technology has advanced in such a fashion that we can now send data using two-way radios. We can send email, text messages, send photos. We can, for a long time, we've been able to send our location. And even now, we're using two-way radios to be able to send documents, forms, pre-fill a form, and then send the data very efficiently over the airwaves and be able to have that information pre-populate a form on the other side. And even still, the range of two-way radio is really limited to it's typically line of sight. However, we can talk to the International Space Station as it passes over, and with repeaters and certain kinds of two-way radio, we can talk across the globe. You can literally talk to someone on the other side of the planet and actually be able to have a conversation with them in near real time. At the core, really what we try and do is simplify how to talk on the radio. And we came up with the five W's. And if you keep these five W's in mind when you're formulating a message, you're going to be successful. If you don't have good experience or a lot of practice using the radio, trying to communicate effectively becomes challenging, especially under a high stress situation when you need to come up, you need to think about what am I saying and be able to say it without um, stumbling over your own words. So the five W's really break down to who are you trying to reach? Who are you? Where are you? What do you have? And what do you need? The fire department calls it CAN, a CAN report, conditions, actions, needs, and it boils down to really the same fundamental information. Who are you trying to reach? Who are you? Where are you? What do you have? Those are the conditions. And what do you need? Those are the needs. So for tonight's example, we're going to have a scenario. It's 7:09 p.m. and a loud bang rocks the neighborhood. You can actually feel it. Your windows shake, you feel your wall shake, everything rattles. Car alarms are going off up and down the street, and then your power goes out. You check your cell phone and it shows no signal. What do you do? Well, if you're with an organized group or you've talked to your neighbors, you've had any kind of planning training, and you have two-way radio and a comm plan, communications plan, then step one is really turn on your two-way radio. Get on the air and start being able to communicate. Again, your cell phone doesn't work. It's showing no signal. Most of us, a lot of us don't have landlines anymore. The traditional communication systems that we had 20 years ago, 30, 40 years ago, are not the same that we have today. Almost everybody relies on the cell phone. That's the big difference between today and when the Northridge earthquake happened is we rely on our cell phones for every single aspect of our daily life. And we, at least in Los Angeles, don't really know what it's like to not have a cell phone in modern times. However, um, anyone, sorry, excuse me, anyone who's been in a major disaster site can tell you the first thing that fails is the cell phone networks. So you can expect after a major disaster that your cell phone is not going to work. Doesn't mean it's complete total paperweight, but you're not going to be able to use it in the first couple of hours to communicate when you need it. So when you turn on your two-way radio, and quite frankly, when something unusual happens, something out of the ordinary, something unexpected, power outage, that's a good one. Power goes out, turn on your two-way radio. You hear an explosion, a bang, gunshots. Were those gunshots? Were those fireworks? Was that something else that I need to worry about? There's an earthquake. Turn on your two-way radio. Or, for those of us in Los Angeles, we just had a pretty significant rainstorm. That was predicted. We knew that was coming. You know when winds are going to kick up. You know when a hurricane is coming, a tornado, a blizzard. These are expected weather phenomenon, and you should preemptively have your radios charged, ready to go, and turn them on because if something does go bad and gets worse than expected, and you need to be aware of it, the two-way radio system is going to be critical to being able to communicate, especially when your cell phone stops working. The reason why we want to do this is situational awareness, knowing what's going on, knowing how bad it is out there from the comfort and security of your own home. But even when you're outside on the street in your vehicle, being able to hear radio communication from your local group is going to be critical. What was that explosion or that bang? Are there police, fire, EMS, sirens, anything? Is there something that we need to know about that's a danger to our community? Do we need to evacuate? Is that something that um, would normally go over, say, a reverse 911 or some sort of emergency blast on our cell phones, but our cell phones don't work, and therefore we can't get that communication. So having the two-way radio, someone can alert everyone else, hey, they are going door to door telling people to evacuate. Everybody needs to get out. And then how do we organize a response? If the first responders aren't here yet, is there something we can do? We are the help before help arrives. It's important to remember to do the greatest good for the greatest number in the shortest amount of time. That is the Community Emergency Response Team motto. And also don't bring a victim to an incident. Now, who are you going to talk to? Well, chances are you're going to be talking to your immediate neighbors. Your two-way radios can communicate to the person next door to you. If you're in an apartment building or even a large home, you can talk to people in other rooms or on other floors. You can talk to people down the street. You can talk to people a few blocks up. For the most part, that's going to be the range you can expect out of your two-way radio if you're inside of a building. Once you get outside, once you get a more powerful radio or more capabilities, then you can talk farther. Um, but talking to someone on the other side of the globe about a local emergency is not really going to get you the help that you need or the response that you need. There are other groups out there, disaster radio groups such as auxiliary communication services, disaster communication services. Those generally deal with hospitals. In LA, Los Angeles, Southern California, there's the Papa repeater system that allows you to talk to people from all around the state um, from the comfort of your own home. And in terms of what radios, and there was a question about that in the comments, um, we're going to touch upon the different radio systems, but this is primarily focused on the core aspect of how do I communicate on the radio? What I communicate on, be it family radio service, GMRS or general mobile radio service, MERS or multi-use radio service, the citizen band, or amateur radio or ham radio, or even commercial radios. That's not the focus of this presentation. We're going to talk a little bit about it, but fundamentally, how you talk on the radio is going to be the same no matter what system you're on. What's important is who are you communicating with and making sure that you're on the same system that they are. So you really want to start local. Like I said, you can talk to people around the globe. You can talk to people in the International Space Station. How that helps you during an emergency, I mean, it's kind of cool. And if you're bored because nothing's going on, power's out, you can't watch TV, you can't watch Netflix on your iPad, then yeah, it's kind of cool to be able to talk across the globe. However, you really want to focus on being able to talk to the people who matter, the people next door and immediately around you. The Family Radio Service, or FRS, is going to be kind of that initial step, that initial radio system. It's the easiest to get into because it's free to use. You can go to any store, Best Buy, Target, Home Depot, Costco, REI, Amazon, a variety of different others, and buy family radio service or FRS radios. The limit, however, is that it is very short range. It is very low power. If you're inside of a building, you're realistically going to talk to the people on the same block, maybe a couple blocks over at the most. Really, you're looking at a hard limit of about a mile in a suburban area, much less even in a more densely packed urban area. And these FRS radios are going to be handheld only. You can step up from there to GMRS or General Mobile Radio Service. These are more capable radios, more flexible, but in theory, technically, legally, you need to have a license to use them. That license is $35 for 10 years, and it's good for your entire immediate family. It was really meant for family farms. So if you have the family working the farm, they spend $35 and the entire family can use these radios, this license for 10 years until they have to renew. Um, and they can come in all shapes, sizes, handhelds, mobile radios. They're capable of communicating over repeaters. Think about having like a repeater up on a water tower or something high up. If you can see it, you can talk to it, no matter how many miles away you are from it. Um, then MERS is a competing standard, completely different kind of radio type. Um, it's less commonly used by volunteers, more so that it's on the expensive side. The price of MERS radios have come down. However, it's also limited to 5 channels and not able to use repeaters. Some volunteer groups, some organizations do use it. It certainly does function. So if your local group does use MERS, get MERS. You want to be able to communicate with them. The catch is that GMRS and FRS can't talk to MERS and vice versa. So it does you no good to get a radio system that is not compatible with your neighbors or the group that you're wanting to work with. CB radio is citizen band radio. It's used a lot by truckers, off-roaders. We don't recommend it just because it doesn't, it's really busy, it's really noisy. The people who talk on it tend to be very rough in terms of lots of profanity. It's not policed. It's not well uh, cultivated. But if your local group uses it, that's the radio service you're going to get. Again, not compatible with GMRS, FRS, or MERS. So getting one of those when everybody's using CB doesn't really help you. If everyone uses CB, get CB. The ham radio service, this is where things get very flexible, very powerful, very quickly. Um, However, there is a test requirement. It is a 35 question written exam, multiple choice. There is, generally speaking, a $15-ish fee to take the test, and then a $35 for 10-year license fee that has to be paid as well. Um, the test is available online. All the questions are known. There's a standard pool, and you can go to something like Ham Radio Prep or something like that. Just search for Ham Radio Prep. There's a free site that has sample tests. Start taking the sample tests. Um, you'll get through all the questions, and as you pass regularly, you're pretty much ready to take the real exam. You're going to see the same exact questions, the same exact answers, and you'll just be able to pass it simply out of familiarization. There is math requirement on it, but if you miss every single math question on your test, you'll still pass. And that gets you in, and that's an entry point. Then you buy a ham radio and you can really almost do whatever you want with it within limit. Obviously, you're agreeing to the license requirement by the FCC, so no profanity, using a call sign that's been issued to you, no encryption, no special code systems out there. Um, but there's a ham radio station on the International Space Station. There are ham radio operators across the globe. And if you're really into radio and you find this really cool, you can do anything you want with it. You can even set up a Wi-Fi mesh system and send um, uh, video. There's actually ham radio TV out there. It exceeds what we're trying to talk about now, but the fundamentals we're going to talk about in this presentation apply to ham and amateur radio just as much as it does for anything else. The basics on how to talk on the radio. Commercial radios are, generally speaking, going to be issued to you by an organization, a department, a volunteer group. It requires purchasing a license, and then, generally speaking, more expensive radios. But they're as simple to use as FRS, if not a little bit simpler, because you simply put it on the channel that you've been told to put it on, and you can communicate, and you don't have to worry about anything else. Um, Again, commercial, amateur radio, CB, MERS, they're all mutually exclusive. They can talk to themselves, they can't talk to each other. FRS and GMRS are the only two that can really talk to each other because they're on the same frequencies. Things get a little wonky here with what you're able to do with a ham radio. Legally, you can't. Technically, you can. I'm going to leave that up to you. I would not advocate you break the law, but you're responsible for your own actions. And then I mentioned repeaters earlier. With a repeater system, you can talk beyond line of sight. These radios all work line of sight. So if there is a giant hill in your way, you're not going to be able to talk to the people on the other side of the hill, especially if they're in a valley and you're in a valley and there's a mountain range between you. However, if there's a repeater on top of that mountain range, and it can see both valleys, you can talk to each other. It is a very powerful capability to be able to talk on a repeater. So after you turn your radio on and you know who you're going to talk to and on what radio system and in what manner, channel, or frequency, then start listening, monitor. If people are reporting in, start paying attention, find out how bad things are. When you get an opportunity to, check in yourself. If this is an earthquake, you don't need to jump on the radio right away. Check on your family, make sure everyone is safe. Assess your home. Is there any damage? Is there just broken glass from things that fell off the shelves? Or do you have cracks in your walls and windows have blown out? Pieces of furniture have fallen over and have made it difficult to get out of your room. Things like that. When you get an opportunity to, check in. Report your status. Are there any injuries? Is there any damage to your home? Do you need any help? As people check in, after you've checked in, you're going to determine, is this bad enough that a neighborhood response is required? Or I'm just going to clean up my mess. I'm going to keep listening to the radio in case things get worse. But other than that, there's nothing much to do because there's not a need for us to be the help until help arrives. Some people will not well fight the urge to turn the radio on and immediately hit the push to talk button. You need to listen before you transmit. Unlike a cell phone, unlike a landline or standard phone lines, only one person can talk at a time. If you try and talk while someone else is talking, um, only one person generally is going to be heard. You could step on them, and if they have emergency traffic or emergency communications or whatever, you stop them from being able to get that emergency communication out. Or they're more powerful than you, and you talk on the radio and no one hears you. And if you have emergency traffic, that doesn't get you what you need. So wait until any active conversations are over, wait for a break, and then you can get on. Now, if there's an emergency or you have priority traffic, emergency traffic is involving saving life or limb. Priority traffic is regards to the time sensitivity of it. I have milk that is going to go bad if I don't get it refrigerated right now. That's maybe ice cream is a better aptitude, but there are times when communication needs to be done um, at a more sensitive interval. I need to get this information out now. I need a response now, and I can't wait. That is when you can interrupt emergency or priority traffic. Um, Otherwise, wait until the airways are clear. When people are done talking, you'll generally hear that natural break. Maybe they'll say something like over or out, um, or clear. Listen for a little bit longer. Listen for at least 60 seconds. Make sure it wasn't just someone taking a breath and then jumping back on the conversation. If you have emergency priority traffic, wait 30 seconds just so that you understand that this is actually a break in the traffic and you can get on and it's clear. If you do have emergency or priority traffic, state it, say it, announce it, repeat it 3 times. Emergency, 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 or priority, priority, priority. That gives a better chance of you getting your information out, that alert out before you start talking and then somebody jumps in and steps all over you. So when you monitor and check in, you want to say, how bad is it? What's my situation? What's my status? For example, I'm going to say, this is CERT 12 Cabrillo 1. That's who I am. No injuries, no damage. All right. Sounds good. People start reporting that in. Great. Not a big deal. Everybody can go back doing whatever they were doing. Or you hear, this is 12 Portola 3. No injuries, broken window. Okay. No injuries, good. Broken window, meh. Maybe it's expected. Maybe that rattle shattered someone's window. You start hearing something like, this is CERT 47 Huntington 4, pin family member, partially collapsed roof. Oh, we've got some problems now. Maybe things are going to get interesting. This is 47 Huntington 7, family member with possible broken leg, cracks in one wall. Now you start to build a mental picture of that situation, that incident. How bad is it out there? You start hearing about damage, you start hearing about injuries. Things are potentially, you need to help your neighbors. If you have an organized team in the neighborhood or community emergency response team, you should start to talk about where your staging area is going to be. Where is everybody going to meet up? Where are you going to deploy to in an emergency or in a disaster when you are going to be the help before help arrives? Do this before the disaster. If everyone's panicking because things are going sideways, now is not the time to figure out where we're going to all meet in person. In, is this going to be in someone's front yard? Is this going to be in the middle of the street? Is this going to be in a plaza? Is this going to be someone's side yard, backyard, underneath some power lines in the park? Come up with this location ahead of time. Start talking to your neighbors about it now. Can't stress that enough. When you decide that things are going bad enough, you're hearing enough reports over the radio that you need to do something, you and your neighbors need to do something, let everybody know before you go. Don't just walk out the front door and hope other people show up. Oftentimes, they're going to be waiting for other people to say that they're going. If you say, I'm going to the staging area, everybody meet me there, then that's motivation to go. If no one says that, everyone's going to sit at home thinking that, is this bad enough? We should do something. Or are we going to wait until someone else takes the initiative? If you're going to be the one that takes the initiative, great. Let everybody know that. If you hear someone saying, we're going to the staging area, meet us there, it's up to you if you want to go. If you've checked on your family and assessed your home and everyone is safe and there's no damage that you need to worry about, then you can go. But if your family members are scared, injured, you're worried that your home is going to collapse or that you have possible risks of fire, that's not the time to go to the staging area to be with your neighbors. That's the time to take care of your family and make sure that you take care of that situation so you're not worried about it while you're out in the field. Go directly to that staging area. This is not a time to take a tour of the neighborhood. This is go straight there and then organize with your neighbors. Ideally, go with a family member or another neighbor. Go in pairs, go in a small group. If you have to, because there's no one else immediately around you, go alone, but that's not the best choice. Um, don't take those detours. Get there because if you get hurt while you're looking for places, then the chances of someone coming to find you are a lot more reduced. Remember, we don't bring a victim to an incident. We want to go, form a team, have some backup, have a plan, and then get to helping our neighbors. You can walk there, you can drive there, however you're going to get there. But while we're saying go directly there, we're also saying observe, look around. How bad is it? Do I need to investigate this? Do I need to send a team back to deal with this? Is it something that we really do need to handle? And then report it in. Call it in over the radio. Um, we get caught up on this a lot in our drills. The difference between damage assessment and incident response. The best advice I can give is don't get sucked into an incident. If you need to go to the staging area and form a team to deal with something, if you get sucked into an incident that you need backup for, you need more resources for, and you can't do enough by yourself to make a meaningful difference, but you can blow 2 hours there because someone is panicking, they're scared, whatever, then there might not be help coming. What you can do is you can tell people, reassure them that help is coming. That help is probably you, but you need more than just yourself to deal with it usually. Once you get to the staging area, you can respond back with a team that can deal with whatever you encountered. Call it in, go directly to the staging area, form the team, head back and deal with it when you have enough resources. You go back to the 5 Ws again. Who are you trying to reach? Who are you? Where are you? What do you have? And what do you need? So, my example again, I am CERT 12 Cabrillo 1. I report over the radio. This is CERT 12 Cabrillo 1. Deploying to Monterey Hills staging area. Will report when I get there. That's an indication that everyone else should go to the staging area because there's going to be people there. And it's bad enough that we've decided to set up a staging area. You might also hear on the radio staging from 12 Portola 3 en route from Portola Terrace. Wonderful. I'm not going to be the only one at the staging area. Might actually have enough people to form a team. Might hear over the radio people reporting in. Staging, this is CERT 12 Temple 2 at the corner of Via Marisol and Via Colina. I found a vehicle crashed into a building. There is one trapped survivor, 24-year-old female, conscious and uninjured. The vehicle is off and the incident is stable. Request, good spell check there. Requesting incident response team. Might also hear staging 47 Wilson 6, corner of Via Arbolada and Via Marisol. Trip and fall with head strike. 20-year-old male. Survivor lost consciousness, but claims to be fine now, requesting incident response team. That covers the who are we trying to reach? Staging, typically. Who are you? We have call signs. I'm CERT 12 Gabriel 1. Someone else is 12 Portola 3. Someone else is CERT 12 Temple 2. Another person is 47 Wilson 6. Where are you? En route from Portola Terrace, at the corner of Via Marisol and Via Colina, corner of Via Arbolada and Via Marisol. What do you have? Vehicle crashed into building, one trapped survivor, 20-year-old female, 24-year-old female, conscious and uninjured. Vehicle's off, incident is stable. There's key points here that are being made, key pieces of information. Trip and fall with a head strike, 20-year-old male, survivor lost consciousness, but claims to be fine. What do you need? Well, not much I can do about this by myself, so I'm requesting an incident response team. When you are first getting on the radio, it is imperative that you address who you are trying to reach and tell them who you are. Reason is, quite frankly, we don't practice radio communication enough. The more we say something, the more clear we are about it, the better. Some radio systems will identify you, so you don't need to. Generally speaking, those are expensive and more complicated radio systems. If we're all using family radio service radios, that's not going to share our information. It's not going to share our GPS coordinates. So we need to tell who we're trying to reach, who we are, because when you're on the other end of the radio and someone's calling you, you might not be able to identify their voice. Or there might be multiple teams or multiple people calling in, and it gets very confusing very quickly when you hear a bunch of different voices on the radio to the point where they start to blend together. And you go, was that Bob? Was that Sam? Was that Dean? Um, was that Crawley? I can't pick them out. But if they identify themselves, then you know who's calling because they said who they are. Um, Generally speaking, when we're talking on the radio, we don't want to use names. We want to use call signs. We want to use the position that we're in if we're on a team. When the reason why we do that is because teams stay the same. A team is a team, Alpha team, Bravo team, Echo team, staging. These are all going to be um, the same entity that's calling, but the person, the radio communicator, might be different. Bob might be assigned to Alpha Team initially, but after Alpha Team does their damage assessment, Bob gets reassigned to Echo Team and is now the team leader of Echo Team and has a different radio operator versus Bob was the radio operator on Alpha Team. Positions, people switch around, but the teams will stay the same. Those individual call signs that you have are so that you know who that person is for the purpose of talking to that one person, not necessarily for the team. We do want to repeat this information. So when we say, who are you? Who are you trying to reach? It's because we want to get someone's attention. We want to make sure that someone is paying attention and ready to receive our communication. So staging, this is CERT 12 Gabriel 1. I'm going to wait for acknowledgement. I want to know that someone heard me. I hear someone call back from staging, CERT 12 Gabriel 1, go for staging. I know, okay, someone's now listening. Someone's ready for me to talk to them. They could be busy. There could be no one there. They could be under a pile of all sorts of things and not ready to hear me. If I start talking a mile a minute because I'm panicking and I need to get critical information about someone who's injured or that there's a risk to the community here, there's a pack of wild dogs, there's a cheetah loose in the neighborhood hunting down stray cats. Um, if I don't wait for acknowledgement, wait for someone to confirm that they're listening to me, then the assumption is that no one heard me and my radio communication didn't get where it needs to go. Once they acknowledge you, start over. Who are you trying to reach? Who are you? So that communication flow is staging. This is CERT 12 Cabreel 1. I now wait for acknowledgement. That acknowledgement comes. CERT 12 Cabreel 1, go for staging. I start over. Staging. This is CERT 12 Gabriel 1. I'm at the corner of walk and don't walk. I have a cheetah that is looking very hungry, and I'm pretty sure I can't outrun that cat. I'm also pretty sure he can climb a tree, so I am not going to try and climb the tree. What do I need? Animal control would be great right now. It's an example. Hopefully, you're not actually waiting for animal control after an earthquake because that's going to be a very long wait and you're probably going to feed that cheetah. Now, what happens if they don't acknowledge you? Well, they could be busy. Hopefully, you at least get a please stand by, but sometimes you call and no one's listening. No one answers you. Maybe they're busy. And if you start calling them over and over again, you're interrupting them. Wait a couple of minutes, maybe 3 minutes. Probably not more than 3 minutes, but wait at least 2 to 3 minutes and then try again. Hopefully, on your second attempt, you actually get to someone. Now, um, if you don't, that's when we start to have to revert to the runners or sending smoke signals or some other way to communicate. Why the location? Why do I say where you are as early in that communication chain as we do? Who are you, or who are you trying to reach? Who are you? Where are you? And quite frankly, it's because um, your radio might die on you. Happens, especially if we're not charging, we don't have fresh batteries in there. We left it on too long, forgot to turn it off. Battery's barely working. If we give a bunch of information and request help and our radio dies before we give our location, nobody knows where we are. Staging, this is CERT 12 Cabreel 1. Cabreel 1, go for staging. Staging, this is CERT 12 Cabreel 1. I'm at the corner of walk and don't walk. My radio dies. At least they know where to find me now. Hopefully they'll come looking for me. If I'm stuck, I fell into a hole, or there's an explosion and a sound loud boom right after I say that, they know where to go looking for me. If you don't give your location, staging has to assume that your last location is the last one you gave them. And if you've been walking for a while, you could be nowhere near the last location that they knew you were at, and they could be looking in the completely wrong place. What do you have? Quite frankly, what is the purpose of your transmission? Why are you calling on the radio? The staging area is blind. They don't know what's going on out there. Your neighbors don't know what's going on out there. Push information. This is all about that building that situational awareness. Tell people what's going on. Um, if there's a lot of radio traffic going on, people are calling in for emergencies, lots of damage, they're requesting incident response teams help, they need transportation to the hospital, and you want to let them know that um, that the neighbor's cat got loose again, um, now's probably not the time to do it. However, if there's nothing going on the radio, it's very clear. You can push for situational awareness only. Let people start building that picture of what you're seeing out there so they're better equipped to handle it if things get worse. Somebody reports that there's a cheetah on the loose. Probably a cheetah not going to attack you, hopefully. However, not only is there a cheetah on the loose, there's also a couple of monkeys and a rather large looking dog. And is that a lion? Um, that situation awareness starts to build. Maybe the animals got loose from the local zoo. Maybe there's something else out there, a velociraptor or a Tyrannosaurus Rex, something that is going to become someone else's problem, and you let them know about it ahead of time. That's situational awareness. But again, it's not something major and the radio traffic is busy. Don't feel the need to push information that is not immediately relevant. When you're reporting a medical, you're reporting three basic pieces of information: age, sex, and chief complaint. How do I identify this person when I send an incident response team? Is it a 24-year-old female with a broken leg? Or is it a 67-year-old male complaining of stomach pain? Possibly the same person, possibly two different people. But if I get to an incident and the person I'm expecting to find there is not the person I find there, then I'm either at the wrong incident location or I got the wrong information or something else has happened. When you're on something like Rose Parade with the Red Cross, you work for professional EMS, you work for an ambulance company doing 911 calls. It is not uncommon. In fact, it is very common. You get to where you think you're supposed to be going and you find not what you expected there. Now it's, am I at the wrong location? Was the incorrect information that was given to me incorrect? Or do I have two incidents here and I found the second incident and not the first one that I've actually been deployed to? So that is the extent you don't want to give personal identifiable information over the radio. Remember, we said no names. What do you need? What is, again, the purpose of your transmission? Was it just situational awareness that you're pushing? You don't need anything, you're just providing information. You report an incident and you need an incident number so you can report back to that about that same incident number. Do I need an incident response team? Do I need transportation? Am I following up on this incident? These are the kinds of pieces of information that are part of that. What do I need? And hopefully you will get information back from staging with that incident number, but sometimes they forget to give it to you and you have to ask for it because you should be documenting some of this stuff. And it's much easier to say staging regarding incident number 7 than it is to say staging from Echo Team. We're still at the corner of walk and don't walk regarding that 24-year-old female with the broken leg. It's much easier to say staging regarding incident number 7. They know incident number 7, corner of walk and don't walk, 24-year-old female with broken leg. Echo Team is responding there. Okay. Regarding incident number 7, simplified a lot of that information. I do want to go back. Um, Maybe we'll talk about this later, but if staging has questions, you push information to them. Don't over push information. Be concise, short, concise, and to the point. If they have questions. If they want more information, they'll ask for it. When do I transmit? A lot of times during our drills, a team gets somewhere, dives into a situation, never tells staging that they're there, never tells staging that they're not there. When you transmit is important because as a radio operator, it's your job to communicate on the radio. The question you should be asking yourself is, does staging need to know about this? Does the command post need to know about this? Do I need additional resources? What do I, is this just for situational awareness? Am I asking for something? Can it wait? These are questions to ask yourself over as you're thinking about, do I need to transmit? Do I need to get on the airwaves and occupy the airwaves? Again, only one person can be on the radio at a time. Do I need to be that one person? If the answer is yes, get on the radio, call staging, let them know. If the answer is no, you can wait a little bit until it is time to transmit. But don't wait to be told to transmit. If you think you need to transmit, you need to call staging and let them know something, do it. How much do I say? This goes back to the be clear, be concise, to the point, and then get off the air. We hear some people on the radio for 5 minutes long, or at least that's how long it feels. They keep droning on and on and on and on because they want to talk about everything. Target your message to be 30 seconds to a minute long, no longer. After a minute, after a couple of minutes, that radio starts to heat up, burn battery, and no one else can talk. Short, concise, and to the point. If you need to break up, if you need to break up that communication, feel free to say break or stand by. That lets the person on the other side of the radio know that you're going to get back on the radio. Break means I'm going to stop transmitting. I'm not done talking, but I'm going to start transmitting just for a second, give my radio a chance to cool down. And if anybody has emergency traffic, then is the time for them to get in. Staging. This is CERT 12 Cabrillo 1, or this is Echo Team. We're at incident number 7. We have 3 survivors here, and break. Staging regarding incident number 7. So you give that little bit of a window. If anybody needs to get in, they have a chance to at that point. Use plain English. No 10 codes, no abbreviations, no acronyms. CERT is an acronym. We talk about CERT all the time. You know who doesn't know what CERT is? The general public. You start talking about CERT to people, they have no idea what you're talking about. CERT could mean any number of things. I'm a CERT volunteer. Cool. I'm not going to pretend I know what that means. I'm going to nod, smile, and walk away from you. But you say, hey, I'm with the Community Emergency Response Team. That now means something. That acronym is meaningful. Some jurisdictions, they don't use CERT. They use NERT, Neighborhood Emergency Response Team, because someone else is already using the word CERT for their organization, or the Criminal Emergency Retrieval Team, or something like that. Say it out loud. Be clear about it. Be precise. Don't use abbreviations or acronyms because nobody knows what they are, and everyone's 10 codes are also different. There's some well-known ones, 10-4, okay, but what's a 10-3? For LAPD, 10-3 might be different than what Santa Monica PD calls a 10-3. So just use plain English, say what you mean what you say. Don't give unnecessary details. Don't use overly flowery language. Don't use words that are unnecessary. If the staging area or whoever you're trying to talk to needs more information, they'll ask for it. Think before you transmit. If possible, write down your message. It is so much easier to read a message over the airwaves than it is to come up with it in your head as you're talking. And we see this over and over again. When people get on the radio, their brain goes blank and they start to stutter, they start to stammer, they start to add, what was I saying? Who am I talking? What the five W's was that whiskey, vodka, tequila, and if your brain goes blank on you, get off the air. Release that push to talk button. Don't let everybody hear your um, brain fart, and that's all they're going to be talking about it. Throw in a quick break or stand by. Recompose yourself. Write down what you're going to say, then call back. It's going to go so much better. Speak in a calm, even tone. Expect that people are going to write down pertinent information. If you rattle off an address, 452-678 Whiskey Street. What? 4528 Whiskey Street. That's something someone can write down. Repeat trouble or difficult information, such as an address, a couple of times if you need to. 4528 Whiskey Street. Again, 4528 Whiskey Street. That way, they have a chance to write it down and get it accurate and confirm they got it right the first time. If not, you're going to hear back on the radio, can you please say again that address? They didn't get it the first time. You said it too fast or you didn't repeat it so they could confirm it. They should also confirm that information, confirming 4528 Whiskey Street. Now you both know that you got it. It's great to bullet point things. Use that period, that end of sentence punctuation between key pieces of information. Who are you calling? Who are you? Where are you? What do you have? What do you need? Staging. Alpha team. Walk and don't walk. 30-year-old female. Trip and fall. Head strike. Need transportation to hospital. And throw in a few words. It makes it easier, but it's unnecessary. Staging from Alpha Team. We are at the corner of walk and don't walk. We have a 30-year-old female trip and fall with a head strike. We need transportation to the hospital. Again, if you lose your train of thought, you start to stammer, say break or stand by, let them know that you're going to come back once you recompose yourself. Also know what not to say. Radio transmissions are public and unsecured. This is especially true for FRS and GMRS and ham radio, and certainly CB. On a commercial system, it might be encrypted. Maybe, maybe not. But don't give information that is very sensitive. Again, no names. And again, don't use code words. Don't use abbreviations. Don't use acronyms. I am so tired of hearing people talk in acronyms. I volunteer with the California State Guard. It's a paramilitary organization. They love their acronyms. Half the time I get an email, I have no idea what's going on because there's 50 different acronyms or abbreviations in there. And I have no idea what they mean. Better believe that people on the other radio are not going to know what they mean either. And they're not going to want to say they don't know what they mean, what you mean. They're just going to ignore it and hope it wasn't something important. And that's when problems start. No 10 codes. No personal information. Step 4, form teams and respond. So you got on the radio. You decide you're going to deploy to the staging area. Now you're going to form a team and respond because you've called in the incidents. Other people called in the incidents. Hopefully someone was documenting. You have an idea of what's going on out there that needs to be dealt with. We're going to send a damage assessment team out to assess and find out what do we need to deal with? What can we deal with? What's something that we can do for the greatest good for the greatest number in the shortest amount of time? Um, CERT doesn't teach this really. It's not in the basic curriculum. We've given an example here of how you can do it. How you do it in your local group is up to you. If you want to take these examples, I think these work. Maybe they work, maybe they don't, but it's at least a good baseline, a good starting point for assigned roles only. Team leader, scribe, and for the people who don't like to be scribes, call them your deputy team leader. It makes them feel good. They'll actually want to be the deputy team leader, not the scribe. But the job is writing down the information because the person with all the information knows what's going on. And if you documented it, you have that information. You are a vital asset to that team. If the team leader trips, falls, breaks their neck, then you can take over because you have all the information. Radio communicator. Radio communicator's job is to communicate over the radio. They should not be doing 15 other things as well. It is a skill and it is a difficult skill and requires a lot of practice. If you're trying to do more than one thing at once, you're not going to be able to do it well. You're going to do both things or multiple things, mediocre at best, abysmally at worst. Everyone else, other than the team leader, scribe, and radio communicator, is a hands-on responder. They need to be paired up. They're always in pairs, but they're going to do something with their hands. The scribe is going to write down what's going on. The radio communicator is going to communicate over the radio, and the team leader's job is to make sure everybody stays safe and has a general idea of what they're doing. We also break things up into generally two teams. Damage assessment team. Damage assessment team is small, quick. Um, they're going out to find out what the incidents are that need to be dealt with. Incident response team. Larger team, better equipped, hopefully, more experience, more resources, more people. They're going to deal with the incidents that have been reported in and prioritized. And at the staging area, you're also going to have the team leader, staging manager, incident commander, whatever you want to call the person in charge. And then you're going to have a radio operator and a scribe, or maybe multiple radio operators, multiple scribes. You have a lot of paperwork and documentation that help you keep track of what's going on so you can keep your sanity. The more scribes you have dedicated to documenting correctly, the easier it is to have that organized response. We're not talking about minute 5, minute 10, minute 30, maybe even not minute 60 here. We're talking about 2 to 3 hours into the incident when you're trying to figure out who called in and who needs help and where are we sending our people? Where are we sending our resources? Damage assessment team. Really, 3 people. We hit on those positions. Team leader, radio operator, scribe, or deputy team leader, if you want to call them that. They're going to walk predefined routes. This is not a I'm going to wander the neighborhood team. This is we need to know where you're going, and if we have multiple damage assessment teams, we're going to send them in different directions, but we don't want you to overlap because when 2 damage assessment teams call in the same incident, you don't know it is the same incident. You think you have 2 unique incidents, and you are definitely confused when you're trying to figure this all out and prioritize, because they won't be called in the same way by 2 different teams. And it is always fun when that happens during a drill. It is catastrophic when that happens during a real life disaster. So identify the route they're going to take. Either pre-plan this before you even have an incident. No, okay. Alpha team is going to go up Main Street, take a right on Olive, um, come down Town Street, and then back over on Los Robos. Or Alpha team, walk up that way, take a right, come back and then circle back. Just pre-plan it and let them know where they're going. Don't let your damage assessment teams wander aimlessly. Might not see them again. Their job is to report, triage, stabilize, and then move on. We get dinged on this all the time. The damage assessment team goes out, finds something. Someone bleeding out. Is there something they can do about it? Yes. But they say, but we've been told to be hands off. We've been told just to report it and then move on. Is there something you can do about this right now that doesn't involve you getting sucked in for 2 hours? Can I put a tourniquet on it? Can I turn off the gas if I smell gas leak? Simple, easy things to do to stabilize the incident so that a larger team can come back later and clean it up and finalize it. It's a gray area. It's something that we practice during our drills because we know this is going to trip people up and we want to trip them up and get them to think about it now rather than actually have it during a disaster. Everybody should be in a pair. A pair is not a team. A pair is two people. A team is a minimum of three. Team leader, radio operator, scribe. See how this works? Um, but that radio and operator and scribe, they're a pair. They should always be next to each other because the scribe is going to be documenting information the radio operator needs to share over the radio. And a great scribe is going to anticipate what the radio operator is going to need and maybe jot them down in bullet points. Maybe in something like this. Who are you trying to reach? Who are you? Where are you? What do you have and what do you need? If you're the radio operator and your scribe writes this on a clipboard and turns it to you, all you have to do is read it off. It's really great. Team leader's job is to keep people safe. They and stay on mission. And they should always be hands off. We've seen it where team leaders jump in. They're like, I have some medical training. I want to get my hands bloody. And then they're no longer the team leader. And they have no idea what's going on because they're now focused on the person that they are trying to save and not watching out for the car that's about to hit the team. I say should be hands off because sometimes it is all hands on deck and you are trying to save lives and do something about this now, and there's only three of you. And there's a bunch of people who need tourniquets and need airways opened or whatever. These are not hard and fast rules. These are baselines to get you started. Examples. Once the damage assessment team gets back to the staging area, they'll get rolled into an incident response team and go back out. Hopefully without too much of a break in between. But sometimes they're going to need a rest because they just walked a couple of miles and now they need to recoup because if they overexert themselves, they become a victim and we don't bring victims to an incident. So, damage assessment team is going to communicate over the radio. It's going to sound something like this. Staging, Alpha team, corner of Via Marisol and Via Colina, vehicle into building. We are investigating, requesting an incident number. Short, concise, and to the point. Can sound something like this, however. Staging from Alpha team. Regarding incident number 7, confirming address is 4478 Via Marisol at the intersection of Via Colina. Sometimes it's easier to find an intersection on a map than it is the actual address. So it's good to give both. 4478 Via Marisol. Closest intersection is Via Colina. One trapped survivor, 24-year-old female, conscious and uninjured. Vehicle is off. Situation is stable. Request incident response team for extraction. If staging needs more information, they'll ask for it, but you're keeping it short, concise, and to the point. Might also sound like Staging, Bravo. Regarding incident 9, corner of Via Arbela and Via Marisol, trip and fall with head strike. 20-year-old male, survivor lost consciousness, but claims to be fine now. Looks a little unstable. Requesting incident response team to evaluate because of loss of consciousness. Short, concise, to the point. What do we have? What do we need? And why do we need it? Just a little bit there. Incident response team is going to be bigger. They're going to be 5 to 7 person teams. Start with the basic 3, team leader, radio operator, and scribe, and then start adding responder pairs. 2 people per pair. Can't do math. Team leader, radio operator, scribe, responder 1, responder 2, and possibly responder 3 and responder 4. We say 5 or 7 people because those are odd numbers. 3 people on damage assessment team, 5 or 7, odd numbers. Can't break up an odd number evenly. If you have a 6-person team, you can, in theory, split that into 2 3-person teams. Not great. Things become wonky. But you can actually break off a responder pair if you have, say, 7 people on the team. You can send a responder pair if communications breaks down and you need to send runners back. You can send them together. You don't want to send a runner by themselves because what happens if they trip, fall, break their ankle, radio doesn't work, and now we have no idea where this person is and they need our help. At least if you're in a pair, they can help each other. Their goal as an incident response team is to really spend more time on the incident and bring that incident to a conclusion, whatever that conclusion is. Transport, family member takes them, throw them in the back of a pickup truck, bring them to the medical tarps, whatever it is. Or, hey, we confirm that no one appears to be screaming for help from this location. We looked in the windows. We're not going to break down the door, but at this point, we're going to say this incident is not real. Incident response teams are going to communicate in the same way back over the radio. This is where that incident number comes in handy again. Staging echo team regarding incident number 7. We are on scene at 4478 Via Marisol near Via Colina. Assessing, will report with more information. You should hear them. The incident response team should tell you that they're at the incident because you're blind and you don't know where they are. Now you know they're at the incident. Incident response teams push information to staging. When you get to the incident, let them know you're there. Otherwise, hey, it's been a long time since we've heard from Echo Team. Shouldn't they be there by now? What happened to them? Where are they? Oh yeah, we've been here for 15 minutes. We just didn't bother telling you. Happens way too much in drills. Staging, Echo Team, Incident 7. Driver has been extracted from vehicle. Vehicle is off and safe. Driver is uninjured. Requesting new incident. Cool, they're done. We can send them somewhere else where we need to send them. Staging, Foxtrot, Incident 9. Patient is coherent and does not think he lost consciousness. He is with a family member. They will monitor him in case he gets worse. Easy enough. Staging, Golf, Incident 12. Patient has obviously broken leg and possible internal injuries, requesting transport to hospital. Now you got to figure out how you're going to get him to the hospital. Not the purpose of this training, but we'll talk about that in the next one, maybe. Hopefully that was clear on what information you are sending over the radio. We've talked about this multiple times, but the key things are the 5 W's. Who are you trying to reach? Who are you? Where are you? What do you have? What do you need? If you stick to this formula, you are going to have good, solid radio communication. When you call over the radio and you're talking about a medical incident, you're only sending age, sex, and chief complaint. So, what kind of radios should we get? Fun stuff. We talked about FRS. Start there. Easy enough. Simple, free. Anyone can use them. You can buy them. They're relatively cheap. However, if everybody has an FRS radio and a bunch of kids do, and a bunch of businesses use them, it's going to be busy. You're going to hear a lot of different people talking over the same channels. Try and find a channel that's not in use, but that might not be possible. Um, if your group can all get GMRS radio licenses, great. You have more capability, more powerful radios. They can transmit farther. You can get mobiles that can transmit up to 50 watts. Do you need it? Probably not. But if you're trying to expand your radio communication capabilities, it's a great start. Why? Because GMRS can use repeaters. You can talk all over the city on a repeater. If you have troubling terrain, difficult terrain, a repeater may make radio communication possible when FRS fails. And FRS and GMRS can communicate with each other. FRS can't talk on the repeater, but they can hear that repeater. Ham radio license. If everybody's a ham, awesome. You have so many capabilities. The sky's the limit. Um, talk to your local ham group. Make sure everybody has handhelds, HTs that are programmed on the same frequencies. They can't talk to each other. These radios do them no good, even if they can talk over the world, all over the world. And again, mobile in your car. Lots of power, lots of capabilities. Stay away from CB unless your group uses citizen band. Stay away from MERS unless your group uses MERS. Commercial radios, if your group issues them, your agency, your department, whatever issues them, it solves a lot of the problems because it simplifies a lot of the problems. All I need to know is what channel to be on, and that's simple. What radio should I get? I used to recommend two different radios. I'm gonna pretty much stick to the Midland GXT 1000s. These are super solid. We've tested them. We've had great success with these radios. Just search for Midland 1000 or GXT 1000. They're about $75 a pair. What makes these radios so great? Most radios use AAA batteries or three AA batteries or a small rechargeable pack. Somehow they managed to stick four AA batteries in these radios. These things are powerful, they're solid. You probably need a GMRS license to use these. You can buy them without. I'm again not saying break the law. If you can get the $35 GMRS license, you're covered. These are not repeater capable though. But it's hard to find GMRS radios that are easy to use and cheap enough to recommend that are repeater capable. As a general rule of thumb, don't buy the cheapest thing, and you don't need to buy the most expensive thing. You generally get what you pay for. For $75 for a pair of radios, these are a pretty solid recommendation. Is one radio better than the other? That will be you wanna get hams talking about radios for 3 hours straight. Ask them about their favorite radio. Ask them if one is better than the other. Everyone has their opinion. It really doesn't matter. What matters for this presentation is all radios fundamentally work the same. You're going to have an on-off and volume either dial or button, typically on the top of the radio for the dials or on the front of the radio for the buttons. All does the same thing. Turns the radio on, turns it off, adjusts the volume. You should be able to hear the radio. If you can't hear the radio, it's a paperweight. The radio is going to have a channel select dial or buttons. Dial's going to be on the top of the radio, maybe next to the volume knob. If their buttons are going to be on the front of the radio. And the most important thing about the two-way radio is that push to talk and release to listen button. It's always going to be on the side of the radio. Some radios may have one on the front as well. You're handed a radio, it's going to have these three things. Doesn't matter what kind of radio it is, all pretty much fundamentally the same thing. And you're going to communicate on it the same way, the 5 Ws. When we talk about FRS, MERS, GMRS, ham, there's generally not one that's better than the other. The important thing is who are you going to talk to with it? If you don't know who you're going to talk to with it, the radio is useless. Make sure you're on the same type of radio that the rest of your team is, the rest of your neighbors are. This is pre-planning. This is talking to your neighbors ahead of time. This is, hey, let's all get these Midland GXT 1000s and be on channel 3 with a backup channel of 5. All on the same page, pre-plan this before the disaster. Also, can I afford this radio? Can I afford to replace it if it's damaged or lost? If the answer is no, and it's a $300 radio, don't buy the $300 radio. If it's no and it's a $75 radio or $35 for a pair, maybe go a little bit cheaper. The $20 radio, the $10 radio is going to work enough, just not as well. Don't go broke over buying radios. It is a rabbit hole. I have way too many radios. I know a lot of people have way too many radios. Don't overthink it. But anticipate probably your first radio is not going to be your last one either. Is it easy enough to use that I can use it under stress during an emergency? If your radio is too complicated to use, you have to program it from the front and there's 50 different buttons on it and you're panicking and you're trying to figure out, is the push to talk, or is this the monitor button, or is this the FM radio button? Get a better and easier to use radio. Practice with it. Practice with it, practice with it, practice with it. We don't get enough practice. During an emergency, when you need to get on the radio, you should be able to do it without having to think too much or freak out because you've never used this radio before and the first time you're turning it on is when you need it. There's handhelds or HTs, there's mobiles, there's base stations. You can use voice over IP on your cell phone. They're all different and they work differently, but fundamentally, they all work the same. Get something you're comfortable with, practice using it, get comfortable with it, and practice the 5 Ws. Digital and analog. Most radios work on analog. Digital is been around for a long time. It's generally expensive. The great thing is digital is coming down in price. There's a lot of, let's face it, Chinese manufacturers out there who are manufacturing cheap radios. Are there better or worse than more expensive radios? It's not the purpose of this presentation. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Doesn't matter how much you spent on it. If it breaks when you use it, then it doesn't work. If it doesn't communicate far enough to talk to the rest of your team, then it doesn't work. Distance comes up when this discussion happens. Analog gets staticky, and it's susceptible to interference, and at distance it becomes hard to hear, but you might be able to hear something. Digital is just on or off. It's ones and zeros. It's generally clean, less static, less noise, less interference, but starts to break up at the edge of its range. And that's the argument people say is analog is better because you can hear something at the edge of its range, versus digital, you can't. But I've heard some testing that digital, because it's cleaner, it's clearer, you can actually hear better at its range, even if it is dipping in and out. At the price point that these things are becoming available, I think we're going to experiment with them a lot more. Um, Most of these digital radios do support analog as a fallback. However, it's not the other way around. If you have an analog radio, you will not be able to talk to someone on digital modes. Now, here's the confusing part is analog is analog. You can buy any analog radio as long as it's the same type. FRS analog radios, ham analog radios, you're gonna be able to talk to each other. Digital has many competing formats. There's things called DMR, P25, basically the same thing. D-Star, Fusion, Moto, Moto Turbo, or LoRa, long range radio. They're not going to be able to communicate with each other. So you're going to have to pick the same standard and standardize on that if you go that direction. Practice, practice, practice. The first time you use your radio should not be right after the earthquake. Um, we do monthly in-person trainings in LA City. Our next one coming up is going to be Saturday, February 28th, from 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. This is one that we've run several times. It's going to be at the former CBS Studios, Radford. With the permission of the studio, we do need a waiver. This is not one I'm running this month because I'm not available this date. However, Chin, who's on this, is going to be helping out the Battalion 14 coordinator. Um, they did not set up the Eventbrite in a short form, so you're gonna have to maybe take a screenshot of this, a picture of this, and then try and type this all in correctly. Um, Good luck. I'm sorry, I didn't set up the Eventbrite. However, if you do want to go, you do need to go. You do need to RSVP before Friday, the 27th at noon. That's the cutoff. You need to fill out that waiver. They need to know who's coming. CBS Studios, Radford Studios needs to know who's coming to this. But it's a great opportunity to practice using radios, practice communicating over the radios, practice being a scribe, practice being a team leader. Just practice as much as possible because, again, after the earthquake is not the first time you should be turning on your radio. Any questions? If you haven't yet, especially if you're in the LA area, go to certvolunteer.org, sign up for my newsletter. I send out 2 emails generally a month, one at the beginning of the month and one right before this presentation, telling you about all the events that I'm aware of around the city of LA. And Chin, have anything to add? Oh, thank you for posting that in the chat. Chin,
You had me on the mute. I couldn't unmute
that's
myself.
interesting. I would think that I set you as a co-host. I would have thought you'd be able to unmute. I'm gonna release the lock on the mute, so people will be able to unmute. But any thoughts, comments, editorials, anything in the chat that you want to bring up?
Well, we had a really good chat going tonight, and so I talked about a few things that even you touched on, like talking about writing down the 5 Ws and different things like that. I think we got through a lot of that stuff, but there are a couple of questions in here. One person asks, um, Hmm. That's a great question right there, Sandra, and I think we can tell you about that. Will the Midland radio work in the canyons like Beechwood and Bronson? That is the line of sight an issue? And I'll tell you right now, line of sight will be an issue up there in some sections. Patrick, you want to elaborate on that more?
Absolutely. Like I said, if you're in a canyon, you're not going to be able to talk outside the canyon because the walls of the canyon are a problem. Um, Radio waves don't go through large mounds of dirt. If you have a repeater that everyone can see, that's the people in the canyon can see the repeater, and people outside of the canyon can see that repeater, then you can talk over that repeater. Even LAFD has trouble in these canyons. Um, it's something that the local group is going to have to figure out we can bring in people who are experts at radio communication and develop a solution for you. It's just a question of cost and location, the ability to set up a repeater, or, one thing I didn't touch upon is I said that cell phones are going to be dead during the disaster. Um, Starlink with T-Mobile has the ability to get an eSIM on your phone. If you're part of T-Mobile already, you can add this no additional cost or depending on your plan. If you are anyone else, Verizon, AT&T, whatever, you can actually get a T-Mobile eSIM on your phone and be able to have text and limited data at some point, probably phone service through Starlink, and it's going to be a game changer. I think it's $10 a month. That's what I'm paying. Um, that's going to be a paradigm shift, is just having your cell phone function during a disaster if you can see the sky. But great question. I wish I had a better answer for you. It's a challenge and it requires a lot of testing and, quite frankly, some money being spent.
And Patrick, it's like I'd like to kick in just a little bit of perspective to that. When our call out team worked the Palisades fire, the Palisades is also a very rugged, very canyony area. One, we had already lost a number of cell towers to the fire. That's not a big surprise. And it was amazing because the LA City Fire Department staff, they use, I believe, T-Mobile is their cell service. The entire time we were up there, T-Mobile didn't work, so mostly nobody could reach out to each other except for those of us who had AT&T. And so everybody who had AT&T, which I believe, if I remember correctly, they brought in temporary towers and that kind of got the service going. So we were the actual people that people would rely on for self-service. But I'm going to tell you the bigger issue or the bigger fix to that, though it was problematic at times due to the line of sight, were our FRS radios. They really were. And also, in addition to that, to tag on to what Patrick was saying, the Los Angeles City Fire Department, our metro system covers about 98% of the city. We found that other 2% of the city up there in the Palisades because even our 800 megahertz radios were just a brick. So it's pretty amazing. And other areas of the city that are affected by line of sight and also where the LA City Fire Department has trouble, Mandeville Canyon, the Palisades, all of those areas kind of right in there because you have such hilly terrain. So I just wanted to give you a little perspective on that. And Pierre, I see you've got a question over there.
No, actually, it's a comment. We practice radio in our neighborhood every Sunday night. It's very hilly, and part of our practice is to relay to the net control what messages he or she cannot hear. So when net control does not respond when somebody's checking in, whoever can hear that person says relay, and then net control says go ahead, and then they relay the message. We practice that every week so that it becomes how you deal with that communication challenge.
And Pierre, I want to kind of, go with that because one of the things that we learn in our exercises is that members don't always think about relaying. They can be standing a block over hearing, Team Bravo, are you there? Team Bravo, are you there? Team Bravo, and they can know that Team Bravo is right over there because they just saw him 3 minutes ago. And we don't always think about staging. This is team Charlie. We see Team Bravo. They are over on walk and don't walk and whatever it is. So we do have to do a better job as far as when we practice of doing that relay. And it amazes me that we don't think about it, but we don't.
And it goes back to practice, practice, practice. It has to become comfortable. Not, you get the pro words, you get the NATO alphabet, all of that stuff comes with practice. So having opportunities for people to put their hands on the radio, push to talk, and then do exactly like you said, deal with a situation where there's no communication. What should I take responsibility for as a member of the team for communicating?
Yeah.
Agreed.
One of the radios we're going to be testing in at the end of February is actually I had mentioned LoRa long range. It comes off of something called the Meshtastic um, text system. Basically, we have radios now that can relay or repeat transmissions. And we're going to test them out on the 28th. It should be very interesting to see how these go, but it'll allow, say, if staging can reach uh, Charlie team but can't reach Bravo, when they call Charlie, Charlie's radio will actually retransmit locally, and Bravo might be able to hear staging from Charlie's radio. So it's going to be very interesting to see how these radios actually perform in the field. But it is something that we're looking into. Also, AT&T is charged with the first responder network at a government level called FirstNet. And that's why AT&T was out in the Palisades with their cell on wheels because they're powering their financially obligated to get out to those disaster sites and get communications up for the first responders. As a CERT member, you might be eligible to get onto FirstNet, but also think about AT&T might have service in those areas as well.
And Patrick, as we wrap up here, I do want to say one thing to the folks out here. One, I want to reiterate what you said: practice, 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 and what everybody else has said here. Remember, when you talk on a radio, when we talk about those 5 Ws, that is not a normal way that we communicate. And because that is not a normal way that we communicate, we have to consistently practice it so we know when to activate it when we're out in the field. That's one thing. Two, you always want to make sure that you know your equipment. Know your equipment. And like Patrick said a little bit earlier, if you know the capabilities of that particular radio, whatever it is, whether it's a GXT 1000 from Midland or something else you're handling, you know that equipment. You know that equipment just like anything else out there. So, getting on the radio, as I said to some of my group, as CERT members, we want to all be the first one on the radio. But when we get to that radio, are we effective at communicating with it? That's a whole different ballgame, folks.
Absolutely. Any
Patrick,
other questions?
I just want to comment, Patrick, the story you tell about working the Rose Parade, and you've got one channel for all of the first aiders, and the number one rule is don't talk on the radio. And when we teach radio to our group, that's the first thing we tell them is don't talk unless you've really got something to say.
Yeah, absolutely. It really the communications people really get on. I would have to admit to being the target of some of that angst from the people running comms. So even people who teach this stuff and don't get to practice as much are just as susceptible of falling to the mistakes that I've talked about. Most of the stuff I talk about is from personal experience, and that is making those mistakes myself.
Okay.
Chin, was there anything else in the chat that you wanted to bring up?
Patrick, can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead, Johnny.
I just want to say, did you you haven't brought to anybody's attention, on the February the 25th at Fire Station 47, there's going to be an in-person meeting?
Yeah, so
Maybe
we
you
have
can bring it to everybody's
events
attention, please, for Battalion 2.
there. I'm gonna post in the chat. If you go to cert-la.com, go to the calendar section. There's trainings put on all across the city of Los Angeles. The Valley has some stuff coming up. Battalion 2 has a hazmat class coming up. That's going to be the
Yeah,
best
that's
place
the
to
one
go
I'm
look.
talking about, the hazmat class. That's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah. Like I said, go to cert-la.com and go to the calendar, and you'll see all the events that are coming up throughout the month and throughout the next several months.
All right.
Generally,
And
we put them up for the month.
Okay, thank you very much. I was just bringing it to your attention. I know Tom's gonna be there and the team leaders are gonna be there, like three of us. And whoever else shows up, they show up.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Patrick, we got our good friend Jose Robles from the Harper. He wants to add a little something to the discussion.
Yeah, go ahead, Jose.
Hi, how you guys doing? We're trying to piggyback on Patrick, what you said about those who are not very familiar with how to communicate over comms, or they get their like they just forget. Um, this is my little test rig. Use it for something totally different. But in here, my radio is supposed to go in here, but in here, might be helpful for some people. I carry a Sharpie pen and a Write in the Rain notepad.
Hmm.
Might be useful for them to, if they forget, like you were saying, write it down. They don't have to carry a chest rig, but maybe something where like holds onto the radio so it's always on hand. Because as you know, things happen so quickly that um, you might forget exactly what you're being told, um, or just what you have to communicate with staging, and or in this case will be with staging.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we forget to emphasize the importance of pen and paper. Have a clipboard, have some blank sheets of paper, have a notebook, and multiple pens. Not one, multiple, because they dry out, they break, you lose them, you loan them to someone, and they don't give it back. Um, Being able to write down things is critical, and you can when we do the forms class, we talk about Form 0. That's a blank sheet of paper. It does everything, documents everything. And I think people underestimate how important it is to have just something you can write with and write on. Thanks, Jose.
And Patrick, I want to let everybody know if you are a CERT member, a pen and paper is part of the most basic CERT gear you should be carrying. Next to your gas wrench, next to your flashlight, that is an absolute must. There are many other things you can leave behind, but you definitely need that pen and paper. And as I've said here at some of the various presentations, I am a huge fan of Form Zero. Big fan. So that'll make your life easier out there, guys. And for all of you guys who've put in the chat, and I know Joe Panone up in Battalion 4 mentioned it. How do we know what our channel is? Like Patrick said, like we all say, that's got to be a decision to be made by you, your community, your team right now. You don't get there on whatever morning at 2:35 in the morning and say, okay, what channel should we be on? You've defeated the purpose. So make sure that is part of your planning program.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people take the CERT training and think, oh, the fire department's going to tell me what to do. Fire department has just taught you how to think and expect you to step up and be the team leader in your area. They're not going to tell you what to do. The CERT unit that teaches the training in the city of Los Angeles, there are what, 7 of them?
Yeah.
And they're not going to be able to make the plan for the entire city of Los Angeles. It's going to be you and your neighbors. And the fact that you're on this training, the fact if you've already taken the CERT training means that you are closer than possibly anybody else to making that plan for your community. Start talking to your neighbors now. Start saying, hey, what are we going to do when there's a fire, when there's an earthquake, when the windstorms start knocking down power lines? If you don't do it, no one else will. All right. Any other questions, comments, editorials, concerns? A lot of great stuff in the chat. Otherwise,
Patrick, I got to do my one shout out to Stacy Burns, who is always the farthest traveler. She's always here, and got to do my shout out for the night.
welcome, Stacy. I saw there was someone else from Florida on too. So thank you. Hopefully that other person managed to stay up, but thank you from the East Coast to the middle of the country, Texas. You're pretty much your own time zone as well. Thank you all for coming tonight. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you're going to practice getting on the radio. It is intimidating, but if you don't do it, you're not going to get better at it. Hopefully you can make it out to our drills. We'll be back next month, third Wednesday of the month with the next training, and then hopefully also have a drill scheduled for March as well. Have a good night, everybody. And hopefully see you back next month.
All right, good night.
Good job, Patrick.
Thank you.